Feel like I should verify that the sound is good on this, but my phone is plugged in and I'm recording on my phone. Thought it would be fun to do a fun, I feel like is always the word, but thought it would be fun to do a series of the real estate agent becomes the client, because that's literally what's happening. So my husband and I, kind of long story short or short story long, I guess we'll see how far I chat. We have been talking about purchasing investment property for quite some time. There's all kinds of different ways of doing it, blah, blah, blah. What became the lit the fire under our beeps is our daughter, the youngest, is going to chiropractic college, and she was looking at the rent rates, and it was like for a studio apartment, it's like $1,600 or right around there. Somewhere a little less, somewhere a little bit more, but let's just call it $1,500 even. And it was like, God dang. We learned this from the undergrad that her rent, and actually, if you think about it, all three of the kids that went to school, well, four for a time, but three that went through the whole 4 years, the amount of money spent and wasted in rent really makes you want to like poke an eyeball out. So that's what lit the fire under our butt. We started our search and yay, spoiler, found a house. Actually, this is kind of another fun story, sidebar. Another fun story was we were over on the east coast of Florida for our friend's wedding. And since we were near-ish to the city where she'll be going to college or going to grad school at, we took a drive over there because I had been looking at several houses online. And I connected with an agent, but I didn't want to make her do a bunch of running when I knew in the end I was going to probably be the one to negotiate and write the contract and the whole thing. And it didn't seem fair to make her drive neighborhoods and stuff for me. So we ended up going to drive all of the neighborhoods, which I'm so glad that we did, because there were for sure one house, maybe two, that you can do as much as you can at Googling the address and Google Earthing and dropping your little like guy in on Google Earth onto the street and spinning around and looking at all the stuff. But that's only as good as whenever the last time Google Earth little car went through there. And one of the houses I was seriously contemplating, like, this seems, God, this would be awesome. The price was just phenomenal. Well, we got there, and there's a reason for that. The house was definitely in a neighborhood that didn't feel that it would be very grad student friendly, female grad student friendly specifically. I don't want anybody getting all up in my business with me judging, but it was definitely a lower income neighborhood. Not all of the homes were that well kept in the front yard. Some were actually really nice, but others were not. The little neighborhood, which was newer starter homes, newer build starter homes, was surrounded by mobile home parks, which in Florida is actually not an uncommon thing. And there are some really nice mobile home communities, especially if it's like a 55 plus active. Actually, I have family that bought, they have one down here, and it's a beautiful, very nice mobile home community. The ones that were directly adjacent to this house didn't fit those adjectives. I wouldn't call it beautiful. I wouldn't call it quality. None of that. So I'm glad that we drove around. And in that day that we drove around, we we purposely drove to this one house. We stumbled on this house. No, it was actually, I put it in my Google Maps and we drove there. But we stumbled upon an open house, is what I meant to say. We didn't know it was going to have an open house. Yay! That was grand. Usually open houses don't always result in sales, but this one kind of did for the agent that was there. Anyway, so we were able to walk around the house, ask some questions, blah, 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 blah. Decided, we thought about it on our 4-hour drive back over to the west coast Gulf side of Florida, and up deciding to put in an offer. Yay! So now this is where I really become the client. How do I even want to go through this? Well, first of all, I was able to negotiate in my opinion, a very great contract. We offered little over 20,000 under asking. They came back asking for $3,000 higher, all the same terms. We were like, that's fair. That's actually the price that we agreed upon. We haven't closed yet, so I can't say that it's a done sale, but the price that we agreed upon was the price that I thought it probably should be at anyway. So we're all happy. They feel good. They got their little bit of bump up. We feel good because it's basically the price that I had calculated and told my husband that I thought that that's what it would be. Put in the offer, and then now is the spot where it's been a while since we've purchased a house, and you forget all that goes into buying a house. And even me as the agent who knows all of the things that go into it, you forget being on the actual client side, just the absolute fire hose of stuff that happens. So let's kind of chat through that. So the offer's accepted. You get an email. Well, I guess I would have emailed myself, but you would get an email / also a phone call from your buyer's rep. Yay, we're under contract. Now we have to do the things that we said we would do in our contract offer. And in our case, we said that we would, our offer is contingent on financing. So we'll have a loan, so the lender needs to approve it. So our offer is contingent on being able to obtain that financing. And part of that is a lender requirement to have an appraisal done. So you have to have an appraisal. And then we also wrote in there that we wanted to be able to do an inspection. And then for that, I almost did middle finger. We'll just keep this finger up. For the inspection, I said that we would perform our inspection period in 7 days. Now you can write it for whatever. Typically, I've experienced that a shorter inspection period makes the seller feel more comfortable. And the seller feels more comfortable with a shorter inspection period because should the buyer decide for any reason after they have their inspection, I mean, you can use the inspection in a jerky way, but for any reason, if they decide that they want to cancel the contract, 7 days is a shorter amount of time for them to turn around and get it back on the market versus a 10-day or a 15-day or whatever. So we wrote it for 7 days. I was trying like heck to get the lender to get their appraisal done in less time so that potentially we wouldn't have to pay for an inspection and just pay for the appraisal, which, sidebar. So when you are a buyer, you know that you're going to have closing costs and you know that you're going to have whatever the amount of dollars required by your lender as your down payment. So you have a bunch of, you have your pile of money for your down payment, you have some money for closing costs, and then you also need to be prepared to have some money for the appraisal because you pay for that, it's not for free, and then also for the inspection. So I was trying to potentially not spend this pile of money by using this pile of money as a way to be out, but I think I've said long story short now a couple of times. Long story short, they couldn't get the appraisal done within the 7 days that I had promised. So now we have paid for the appraisal. We're waiting for them to go and do their work. And then we've now scheduled and we'll be paying for I should be getting an email anytime now. Scheduled and we'll be paying for the inspection. And then also, because we're in Florida, insurance companies will require usually for sure two, sometimes two different things also be inspected. One is called a wind mitigation, which just looks at your roof and verifies that the roof is compliant with today's code. Basically, it means you have the third nail in your roof, which I'm not sure if this one does, so that could be our big on the deal. and then a 4-point inspection, which to be honest, I can't remember what's all on that. But anyway, so the inspector will also include that in what he does. And in all of that, you have a bazillion emails. So you have also when you write an offer in Florida, the seller determines the title company, so the company that will close the contract, and they then become part of all of the emails that you get. So once the title company receives the signed contract, the signed offer contract, they then contact you as the client, the buyer, to gather information. So they're going to want things like your driver's license to prove that you're you. In Florida, we now have a newish legislation that you have to prove that you're not a foreign country, or a couple of different parameters. So we'll have to go and have some documents notarized. They will, what else does the title company do that we've received an email? So they have an app or a portal that you have to create an account for and sign into. So that's a whole thing. Our lender is also still doing their lender thing. So you have the lender portal that you receive messages back and forth from. So as the client, as the buyer client, after an offer is put in, you just feel like fire hose, fire hose, fire hose. That's where we are today. So tomorrow is the inspection. I will continue the story tomorrow once we find out if we think we're going to be continuing on, or if we're going to have to call the contract based on the inspection. The inspector, I chatted with him, and he said he'll give me a call if he sees anything that he thinks would be a total red flag that we'd probably cancel the contract on. Otherwise, he will get a hold of me when he's done with his inspection. I'll get an inspection report. The report will be very long. If you've never seen one and you don't know a lot about houses, typically they look very scary because he's going to point out everything. That light doesn't work. Does it have a missing light bulb, or is it just not working? I mean, every single thing will be on the inspection report, which is a great thing, because then you know as a buyer what you're going in and what you potentially need to do down the road. But it's very long. So I actually find inspection reports to be sort of interesting, so I can't wait to actually share that when we get to it. But we'll try to do this here vlog in as real time as possible. I was just catching y'all up as to where we are at. And then obviously we have the holiday. I don't know if you're watching this after this week, then you wouldn't have it be very obvious. This is Thanksgiving week, so holiday is coming up, and that kind of throws a little wrench in getting things done. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it on this buyer slash how would I say that? There's like a phrase, right? The teacher becomes the student, becomes the pupil. I don't know. But anyway, stay tuned. See you tomorrow.